Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your girl Danielle, and welcome back to Girl Talk Monday. Welcome to the Healthy Her and Wealthy Her podcast. I am your host, Danielle, and today we're going to talk about red flags and why we ignore red flags. Y'all know it is February, and we're going to be talking a lot about relationships, but not in the conversation that you have been hearing about how to treat a man, how to treat a woman, dating for potential, and all that type of stuff. We're going to get to that a little bit later, but at least for these first few weeks, we're going to talk about ourselves, okay? So why do we ignore red flags? Have you ever met somebody and you've seen how they act? You've seen things that you don't really like, but you just kind of like overlook it, like, oh, well, because this, and well, they act like that because of that. We begin making excuses for people. I mean, raise your hand. I mean, I know I'm not the only one, okay? And you know, I think that it's great to give people grace. I think that it is awesome that we want to give people the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their behavior, right? Because some things are just a fluke. Some things are because somebody's hungry or because they're tired, they've had a hard day. But when red flags come in the form of consistent behavior, we have a problem. And I want to talk today a little bit about why we tend to ignore red flags in people. Now brace yourself. You ready? It's because we ignore red flags in ourselves. It hit me like a ton of bricks this morning. And I have to respect my creative process, because oftentimes when I come on here, the day that I'm about to record, I don't always know what the Holy Spirit is going to have me talk about. But it's been on my heart just the last couple of hours to really dive into why we really ignore red flags in other people. So buckle up, get ready, because we in for a ride. So, if you know me, you know that I'm a strong believer that the way that we treat ourselves is a direct reflection of what we allow other people to do. Our relationships are typically a reflection of something that is typically missing in us or is blatantly obvious in us that we just can't see, typically a blind spot. And that's a hard truth, right? Because sometimes when you attract very toxic people, you don't want to think, I'm toxic. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there are blind spots in our lives that we don't realize are causing us harm. We don't realize that there are thought processes, behavioral patterns, decision-making skills, all these things that are factored into why we do the things that we do. And this is never, we all have different types of relationships. And don't get me wrong, I've been in very abusive relationships, right? But oftentimes, many of them have stemmed from the fact that I just had really low self-esteem. I had really low self-esteem. I had too much pride to ask for help. I had too much pride to leave. I had too much pride to say, I'm in need, I'm in danger, help, please, you were right, help me, please, help me, please. And so I don't ever want to make light of toxic relationships or toxic situations or anything like that. I don't want to do that. What I do want to do, though, is kind of peel back the layers of why we do the things that we do. Because people are going to do whatever they want to do. We don't have control over what other people do. We only have control over what it is that we accept. And so when we begin seeing red flags in other people and we begin making excuses for them, it's because we're beginning to make excuses for ourselves. I'm going to give you an example. I know a red flag in me is the fact that I'm very clingy. I get attached very, very easily. And through my healing journey, I realized that is because I had abandonment issues. I needed to work on my attachment style and really dive into why I attach myself to people the way that I attach myself to people. And it wasn't just in romantic relationships. It was in my friendships as well, where I was like, I want to be with you 24/7. And it's because I was afraid that if I wasn't with them, they wouldn't consider me, they wouldn't love me anymore, they were just going to leave, I was never going to see them again, and that again stems from my childhood. That wasn't a them problem. It wasn't their problem that they couldn't meet my extreme and irrational needs, because it was a trauma response, right? And oftentimes red flags can be trauma responses, right? But we have to begin to identify that within ourselves so that we can begin to identify them in other people. And when you're okay with red flags within yourself, you're going to be okay with red flags through other people. Because if you have an understanding of yourself, you're going to have an understanding of other people. Now, what type of understanding do you have about yourself? That's a good question. Because when we think about self-awareness, you can be aware, but are you okay with what you are aware of? So for instance, if I know that I'm clingy, I'm like, that's just how I am. Well, I'm not really ever gonna have a good, healthy relationship because I don't know how to be independent. I don't know how to be alone. I'm gonna always overly attach myself to somebody and typically attract somebody who's gonna take advantage of it because it's just what it is. That's the way that the universe works. And then I'm going to be left broken again and again and again and again and again, over and over and over again. If I just keep making excuses for why I make these poor choices, I'm just bound to repeat the pattern. The same thing is true when we begin to make excuses for people who display red flags in our life. If we keep accepting this behavior over and over and over and over and over again, it's dishonoring to us because our needs are not being met. We're not safe. And oftentimes the reason why we allow unsafe behavior is because being unsafe feels safe. I'm gonna let that sit for a second. Being unsafe sometimes feels safe because you've never felt true safety before. So the only foundation of love, friendship, and safety that you have is literally chaos and confusion and actually being unsafe. And as an unsafe, I don't mean like somebody's beating on you. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that we have to understand that there's a deep-rooted pattern in our life. It's deep-rooted. It's subconscious. And it's typically because of trauma. That's typically what it's about. And I know not everybody wants to hear this message, and that's fine. I want to speak to the people who are tired of doing the same thing over and over and over again. If you ask yourself constantly, like, why do I find myself in these relationships? Like, why do I constantly find myself repeating the same cycle over and over again? And it's because you yourself are in a pattern of behavior that you are unconscious of. There is something in your subconscious that enjoys the dysfunction. And it doesn't mean that your flesh enjoys the dysfunction. It's just you don't know anything else. And you have to really heal the parts of you that accept the toxic parts of yourself and the toxic parts of others as love. Because it's not love. And I know we live in a society that's like, accept people for who they are. And I think that that is phenomenal. I think you should definitely accept yourself and everybody else. But do you like it? Do you like it? Do you like being in dysfunctional relationships? Do you like attracting people who hurt you? Do you like constantly feeling unsafe in your own body? Do you like it? Do you like it? Because if you do, then that's great. You can click off the video or keep watching. It's up to you. But the question is, do you like it? Do you? I didn't like the fact that I attracted emotionally unavailable friends and lovers, people who simply couldn't love me back. And it wasn't their fault that they couldn't love me back. They were just trying to be nice to me. And for some reason, I'm like, this is my best friend. Oh my God, we're so great. We're so great together. And they're like, whoa, bitch. Excuse my language, but they're like, whoa, girl. Hold up. Chill out. You're doing too much. And that's their boundary. But it was my dysfunction that was allowing me to cling to this person who was showing a red flag, something that I consider a red flag. Because a red flag to me is that you don't feel the same way about me that I feel about you. Because red flags don't always mean that the other person is wrong or toxic. It's not always, somebody beating up on you, that's a red flag. That's not always it. Sometimes it's just that they don't give you the same energy that you give them. Sometimes it's you're always affirming them and they're never affirming you. Sometimes it's you're always calling them and they're not calling you. Sometimes like red flags don't have to be like, he cussed you out one time and you didn't leave. No, sometimes it's that friend gave you a backhanded compliment one too many times and you just ignored it. You laughed it off. Because deep down in your soul, you don't really want to be alone. Or deep down in your soul, you give yourself backhanded compliments, or you don't talk well about yourself. Like, I'm trying to tell y'all, like, people are just reflecting back to us who we are sometimes. And it's not like that all the time, but it's really up to us to determine what we're going to put up with. And the red flags that you choose to ignore and the red flags that we choose to paint green are the things that we are just accepting. And they always hurt us in the end. We know this. If you've experienced the same type of heartbreak over and over and over again, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I want to assure you that you can get out of that cycle. I remember I had a dream one time where I was on this highway, and it was a couple people that were on the highway. I could see some familiar people on the highway, but we were in a car, and it was just one big loop. I just remember one big loop. And I remember, God, I'm really sharing a lot, but it's okay. I remember going off of the exit and my parents were on that exit. And it was like I was chasing down behind my parents, and God revealed to me, you're repeating the same pattern. Like, you're repeating the same pattern that you've seen in the past. And I'm not going to get too deep into that, but the Holy Spirit just brought that back to me, so I wanted to share that. Oftentimes, you're repeating the same patterns. You're repeating the same patterns. And until you acknowledge the fact that you don't like these patterns and you want to change them, you will repeat the cycle. You're going to repeat the cycle. So what red flags exist in your life? What red flags do you exhibit in relationships? Do you get attached too quickly? Do you detach too quickly? Because that was something else I had to deal with. Like, girl, I will cut you off in a heartbeat. That's not healthy. Like, it's okay to walk away, but real quick, that was a little too quick. Anything in the extreme is unhealthy. Anything in the extreme is unhealthy. Especially if you find that it hurts you over and over and over again. If you find yourself attracting the same type of relationships over and over and over again, perhaps God is simply trying to get your attention and saying, I'm trying to show her that this ain't, I keep allowing her to get hurt this time, and she just keeps saying she gonna keep on keeping on the same cycle that she been on. You deserve so much better. We deserve so much better. It's just up to us to go and find better. And it is going to take you healing. It is going to take you looking into, your attachment style, because I was very anxiously attached before. I had a fear of abandonment. So I would cling to people, even when they clearly did not feel the same way about me. And it was constantly hurting me over and over and over and over and over again. And then I became dismissive avoidant, which is still kind of my secondary attachment style. But I would just, okay, all right, and just move on. And that also wasn't healthy. Now, I give people their chances. I may speak up. I'm going to always observe, but I don't cling. When I find myself clinging, and this is for somebody, when I find myself clinging, I take a step back and I'm like, okay, you're doing it again. See, when you're truly aware of a behavior that you don't like and you know why you do it, it comes to your attention when you're getting ready to repeat the same pattern. And I'm like, okay, you're getting a little obsessive, you're getting a little clingy. It's time to take a step back and chill out. You just met this person. But anyways, That's the thought process, to unravel your own red flags and to shine light to the things that you sometimes do to yourself. Sometimes we do things to ourselves. Sometimes it's really not the other person. They're just doing what we allow them to do. And that sucks. It sucks. It does. I'm not going to say it don't. But at the end of the day, we deserve better. And we're going to get better. But you have to intentionally choose to get better. I love y'all. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Y'all know we real and transparent here. I have no shame. When I get on this podcast, I'm here to share everything that I've learned over the last couple of years, because I feel like there's not enough people talking about this real stuff. And I see so many of my sisters repeating the same cycles, and we talk about this my year, this my year, this my year. You the same person you were last year, with the same attachment issues, the same subconscious blockages, the same mindset. You're just spewing the same words you've been spewing. And my goal with this podcast is to ensure that we break that cycle, because that's a cycle. That's a cycle. Saying, this my year, and doing nothing to actually make it our year. It starts up here. If we fix this, we adjust this, our minds, then it can really be our year. I love y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure that you follow me on Instagram. My business page is Pretty Brown and Poppin'. And then also make sure that you guys are following the podcast at Healthy Her and Wealthy Her Podcast, both on Instagram. Let's grow this platform. Let's heal together. Let's have the hard conversations. And let's get back to business, honey. The business of being loved and cherished in all of our relationships. Also remember that on February 22nd, I am having a webinar. It'll be via Zoom, talking about how to create self-honoring relationships. I'm super excited because we're going to be going over all of this great stuff to make sure that, 2024 is going to be the year of relational maturity, where we are just mature when it comes to relationships. Mature when it comes to relationship with ourselves, with other people, and we're going to be going over how to strategies on how to build these healthy relationships in both life, business, and love. This is going to be unlike any other webinar you've ever attended when it comes to relationships. So make sure you are in the building. You can go to my website, prettybrownandpoppin.square.site. That's SITE. And click on the events tab at the top, and you can see my events. Okay? I love y'all. Have a great one. Peace. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to share with another extraordinary woman in your life. Also, make sure that you're following us on Instagram at the Healthy Her and Wealthy Her Podcast. Until next time.